Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I'm Pam Baker, your host, and I am really excited today because I have become such good friends with Dr. Tina Fornwald, who I was initially on her podcast when my book came out and doing the little podcast scene. And then we just connected with our stories, with our energy, with our journeys back to joy are very similar. Actually, we have a lot of things in common, and actually got to visit with her in person when she was in Atlanta. It was like January. When was that?
It was January when we were hosting our retreat there. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just so excited to have you now on my podcast. So welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I am super excited too because I was like, we got to meet in person and eat and talk. And it's like, somebody's real, but it's a different level of connection when you're able to do that. And I'm excited to be in this seat and letting you guide the conversation. This is different for me. So I'm excited about this part too, relinquishing control.
I know it's hard. It's hard because we're like that too. It's so funny. I'm. It is a very different dynamic being on the other side. It's very fun.
Yes.
But well, I'm really excited. We have so much to talk about because you are dynamic and a dynamo. I mean, similar words but different. And just the things you do and the things you've done are like, we're literally, before we started, like, what are we covering? Because we could be here all day talking about all the things that you've done since entering the widow space. So let's just start at the beginning. Let's just talk about you and your husband, Mark, and how you met and what tell us about you. Share your little love story.
Okay, before I do that, I want to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate being able to work with other women in this space and collaborate. There are a lot of people doing amazing things for the widowhood. And one of the things I love about our interaction that it's just like, how can I help you do what you're doing? And how can I help do what you're doing? Because there's unfortunately enough hurting people here for us all to support. And I love those types of connections, and it's organic. It's not a push. And I'm just grateful for that.
That's a really solid point. And it's so funny because I'm sure you get people all the time too that says, oh, watch this woman widow. She's got this great TikTok. She's doing great retreats. And all I ever think about is, ooh, I want to meet her. Oh, I want to collab. Ooh, I want to like mash up our stuff together and figure out how we can elevate everybody. So it is a very interesting dynamic that there isn't like that, the competition.
Yes.
It is a collab, as a collaboration versus a competition. And
Exactly.
thankfully, because Lord knows we need more widow resources out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my late husband, Mark, and I met in the military. We were in the United States Army together. And unbeknownst to me, we had some mutual friends. And we were kind of all hanging out together one time watching movies in someone's room. And it's kind of set up like the barracks is sort of like a college dorm, but not as comfortable. So we'll just say that. And we were all going out to the movies, and we were going to see A Few Good Men. And I asked Mark, I said, would you like to go to the movies? He thought it was just the two of us going to the movies. And then he was like, I was like, oh yeah, this is a group thing. Like, I don't know you like that. No. And,
a date.
right. And so we went to the movies afterwards. And this is on base. There's limited amount of options. And so he said, would you like to go out to eat afterwards? And we went to Pizza Hut. So we go into Pizza Hut. It was the first time I ever saw somebody eat pizza with a knife and fork. I was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go because I'm like, I'm not sure what to do with my pizza. And so I go to the bathroom as in this situation, and I come back and he is looking at me so hard. I was like, okay, he's feeling me. I get back, he says, you have toilet paper on the bottom of your shoe.
Oh my God.
I was like, first date, last date. Okay, we're done here. But that was not the case. I eventually was stationed in Korea. He was stationed in Honduras. When we returned from our overseas tour, we reconnected. And I want to say about 6 months later, we got married.
Wow.
And we eloped, called our parents. We were in Florida the next day and said, oh, got married yesterday. Gotta go. And so my husband, late husband, is Caucasian. So we're talking 1988, not super popular, not,
Mhm.
but
Wow.
it was like, we're going to do what we're going to do, and everyone else has to catch up.
Mhm.
And we did that. And I have zero regrets of that. Zero regrets. We traveled the world, have two amazing children, and I love him today. I love him 9 years, going into 10 years since his passing.
Mhm.
Um, his passing, devastating.
Yeah.
We were on vacation. Well, a little, I should say, a little get together rendezvous. He was living in Virginia because we were in the process of trying to relocate. I was still living in Pennsylvania, and we got together that weekend. And sometimes you only have one time to make a decision. And that decision to be with him that weekend was one of the best decisions that I made. Even though he had a heart attack and passed that weekend, that was the weekend he was going to leave this world, whether it was in the one bedroom apartment that we had for him or us being together.
Yeah.
And he deserved to be with his wife. He deserved to be in a place of love and support transitioning from this world.
Mhm.
Devastating forever for me in different ways, different years. But I am so glad that I listened to God's prompting to be with him that weekend. And that's how I got to be in this club.
Wow. I mean, that's a nutshell version of that story, but you covered it. Holy hell. I like feel all of the feels. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, my initial feeling when you just said that about you being there is hard as it was for you to be there and be witness to that transition time. Oh, all I could think about is how sad it would have been for him to just be alone going through that by himself. So, oh, thank God. Thank God you were there.
And
Yeah.
that is what I think about. If we would have postponed
Hmm.
when we were going to get together, because it was a couple of weeks before Easter, he would have died
Yeah.
in this one bedroom apartment by himself. And it would have been several days. He didn't show up at work, or he didn't answer my call. And they would have had the whole thing
Mhm.
where someone had to enter his apartment and to find him. And he deserved
Yeah.
to have his wife die. I know there are some people that is their circumstance, and I am sorry for that.
Mhm.
That is very difficult to process when we think about, I wish I could have, should have, and we made the best decision we knew how to make based on the information we had. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I was able to be there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a blessing. I was talking to someone the other day about death. I'm sure it was probably on this podcast. I don't know. I can't remember. But we were talking about being present when someone transitions
Mm,
out of this world. I use that word too, like transition to this, whatever the next stage is that you transition to. Um, to me, it's such a beautiful, it's tragic, but it's beautiful. And it's almost the same kind of beauty as, I've been able to be present for the births of my nieces and nephews.
mm,
So when you're having your own kid, that's different. But when you can be there and be like, oh, watch this baby come in, that's beautiful. And that's a
right.
transition too. That's transitioning into, and when you get the, the gift to watch someone also transition out of, I just think it's really beautiful. It's really hard, but it's really just a beautiful gift. I don't know if you felt like that. I mean, a gift to him that you were there, but also for yourself to just be a part of his transition into the next.
I felt I was able to grasp that years later.
Yeah.
That was not the immediate thought.
Mhm.
Immediate thought was, because we were in a hotel on a military base, was me screaming into
Yeah.
a phone to one of my sisters going, I love him, but I love him.
Uh-huh.
And in my mind, the unrational part that's settling in, how can this be happening? Because I love this man.
Mhm.
We're supposed to all these things. And there, that is where I landed.
Mhm.
In the shock, the like, huh? Like, what are we doing? And all the things that need to happen. But I want to say maybe about 2 months later, the idea of, I am so glad
Mhm.
that I was with my husband.
Yeah.
I am so glad, because I would not have wanted him to be alone.
Mhm.
And that those last moments, those last 2 days we had together, I am grateful for it.
Yeah, that makes sense because, of course, when it's completely unexpected, in my case, John had brain cancer for 3 years. So it was a wasting away of his life,
Mm.
his soul, his spirit. So that's totally different. We talk about that all the time too. How who has it worse or who has it better if you have a chronic or long-term terminal illness versus a sudden death that's unexpected. It all sucks. Let's just be honest.
Exactly.
I
I
don't
don't
think it's
think,
always in a competition.
and that's interesting conversation because people have that. I was like, I, I think we received what we got our version of. And I don't have time to think about what could or couldn't have been. I try to land on what was.
Yeah.
But what I am grateful for, even though it was not a slow decline, Mark and I had a lot of conversations about what life would look like for one of us in our absence. There was chronic heart failure in his family, so he was very certain he was not going to live past 56. He passed at 51, but I feel like that gave us the opportunity to have the conversations that maybe you and John were able to have in your situation, because being in the military, being planners, being in the army, and knowing that we're in an environment where people do die. So what do you do in those regards? So that part did not leave me unprepared. We had talked about all the things. And I was grateful. I was mad at him that we talked about him, but I was grateful that we did. So I feel like I kind of got a little bit of both of those
Yeah,
because
that's
of
true.
how we approach life.
Yeah, that's true. I remember now that you're saying that we did talk about that when we got together because that is unusual that
Yes,
people, especially younger people, talk and talk about what might happen, how to prepare for that, and that leaves so many people really, really at a loss. And then trying to figure all that out while they're also grieving. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah,
exactly.
so that also is a gift. I mean, that it was on his mind and that he had, it's not it's weird to say it was a gift that he had the family history that made it front of mind, but also the consciousness that he had to take it there and to have those conversations with you guys together.
Right.
That was good. That was good. Well, thank you for sharing that. Even though time has passed, it's been almost a decade, but the feelings are there, and when you go back to that space, it's still like, "Ugh," it just brings you right back there. It's not easy to talk about. It gets easier, I guess, in time, but you never know. I don't ever know how I'm going to react when I start talking about it.
That part right there. Sometimes I can talk about it, but then there's always parts of where it's like that really happened.
Mhm.
Like sometimes I feel like I'm in an alternate version of my life. I think about like we had children. I was in the army for 21 years. I recently just retired from my job full time. I'm like, I'm 60. Like, what have I been doing? And it's like my husband died. And I remember a year after that, that last day, playing like a movie I couldn't turn off. And then there are some times where it's his birthday where it's like, I just want to be by some water. And then other days I can just laugh and celebrate him. I think for me, when I lean into that this is complicated instead of running from it, it's made it easier for me to deal with the ebbs and flows of this.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it is like an alternate time warp. Really, I was on a podcast the other day as a guest, and when she was doing my intro, she said she said that her husband John died 5 years ago, and I was like, 5 years? Where'd she get her information? And then I was like, oh my god, it was almost 5 years. I was like, that just struck me. Like five feels like what? I don't feel like it's been 5 years, but then, when you think about it, you're like, wow, that really feels like a really long time ago.
Yes.
So weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, when you said decade, I was like, I've been seeing a little after 9 years. That decade was like, woof, woof. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is where we're at.
Yeah, it's where we're at. Oh. Well, let's talk about after he died. Obviously there's the transition time. You have children. How old were they at the time?
Alexander was 19 and Catherine was 21.
Okay. Young adults. Still
Yes.
need still need their parents. Still as the mom managing their emotions and their loss. Um, so at what point did you say, maybe I'll have a podcast? Maybe I'll write a book. Maybe I'll start these retreats. Maybe I'll start taking care of all these children who might need a little help at Christmas. We're going to get into all those things that you do. And like at what point though were you like, I'm going to do something with this?
You know, it wasn't me thinking I was going to do something with it.
Mhm.
I wasn't one of these women going, I'm going to make purpose out of my pain. I
Mhm.
was just trying to survive. I was trying to go to therapy, not drink a lot of whiskey sours, and just pay attention to myself, try to exercise. And not until 2022 did it become the idea of needing to do something. And it happened because a widow of my current husband, his first cousin, passed. And she posted on Facebook, it's her husband's birthday. It was his first birthday. And I was like, that, I
That,
knew what that felt like for
mhm.
me. And I reached out to her and I texted, I said, would you like to talk? And she said, no, I'll talk to you later. I said, I'm available if you want to. And I feel like she called my number before I hit send. And we were on the phone. Now, I go to bed early traditionally. Like, I mean, I'm up at the crack of dawn. Like today I was up at 4:30.
Oh,
I'm usually out by 9 o'clock. Like if you talk to me past that, you may not be talking to me really. But I was on the phone with her, I want to say till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
wow.
And when I finished the phone call with her, I could hear God saying, so what happens when the next person calls? I'm like, no one is calling me at this time. And
Mhm.
it was like, no, what happens when the next person needs to talk? What happens when the next person needs to feel like they're not alone? And I'm contemplating this. And at the time, my mother, who at that point was 79, had a podcast sharing the stories that she's learned in life. And it came to me to start a nonprofit, into the gateway for people connecting is the podcast, because when our loved one passes, we want to connect, but
Mhm.
we may not be ready for a direct interaction. But to be that third person in the conversation, in hearing people talk and share their stories and get glimpse of what potentially future could look like, me, the widow or widower,
Mhm.
was dropped into my spirit. And that was the genesis of starting Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. And still very apprehensive about all the different things, but one chain of event after another confirming this is what needs to be done. And now here we are, starting in 2022, we have 38.1 million views over our podcast and
Wow.
content across 124 countries.
Wow. That's amazing. It's
That blows my mind, just like
yeah.
saying that. And it just tells me how many hurting people
Mhm.
there are, whether it's the dark humor content that we may have on TikTok or the podcast, but all of those together where people are connecting and engaging, and for someone to give a long comment on their grief on a social media platform for
Yeah.
the world to see tells me that we're engaging, just like
Mhm.
what you're doing with people being able to say their loved one's name out loud without someone making it weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, there's such a need, and there's so many people out there who are so lonely and so hurting and so isolated and lost and just really, I mean, isolated in their grief and feel like they're really all alone. And there are so many people. I mean, what, 12 million widows in the United States alone. So then you think about, I did look at the statistics one time, just widows. It was like almost, I want to say 247 million in the world. I mean, that's a lot of loneliness and a lot of
And counting, and
and
counting.
yeah. And so I don't think personally we can have too many resources. We could have a million of us doing podcasts and there's still going to be a need. There's just so much loneliness. So I think that's awesome. I love that. That's so good.
Thank you.
I love your podcast. You know that. So, well, and then you got into how did yeah, so you got your podcast, you got your TikToks. Then what came next?
There were a couple of different things, but one of the initiatives that I wanted to start it, but I did not know how, is Children of Widowhood Secret Santa.
Mhm.
I know that people are horrible about talking about grief or our loved ones. And then to put the financial impact
Mhm.
of a spouse passing, because unfortunately, there are not a lot of people that always have life insurance.
Yeah,
There
lots.
are not a lot of people that have a financial structure that they're able to sustain a quality of life after their person passes. So you talked about widows in America versus outside this country. Even some of our most economically deprived widows are probably still better off than some widows in third world countries or other different places, because our rights are not taken away when our spouses die. We
Mhm.
still have the ability to vote, to have a job. Sometimes in other countries, when the spouse passes, that wife has to go back to her family home, or she doesn't, maybe her oldest son gets, or if there aren't, the circumstances around that grief are very different. But the financial impact is real. And back to TikTok, because I do a live on there every Monday at 7 p.m. And I thought TikTok was not what I thought it was.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of people that I've connected with in this community. And one of the widows that I met on TikTok, her name is Lisa, came to me and she said, what do you think about us trying to get Christmas gifts for children that have lost one or both their parents? And I was so excited because it's something I had on my list of 5-year plan, but my bandwidth was not going to be able to handle that. And I said, absolutely, yes. And then another widow, Tiffany, came and asked the same question. I thought they were together. They had the ideas separately.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, and literally just this year did I find out that they were not together. For 2 years, I've been thinking they were together.
Wow.
We had a conversation, and they had to put something together to submit to the board because it is a nonprofit.
Mhm.
The board wanted to know how the program would work, how we would select, and all the different things. I showed them how to draft that and put it together. They did that. The board approved. And the first year, I want to say we had nine. No, we had 11 children the first year.
Mhm.
The second year, which Widows Do Wine was able to support, we had 29 children.
Wow.
And that is 29 children who receive Christmas gifts. Children are allowed to pick 1 to 5 gifts. I feel like it's like the old J.C. Penney's catalog, like when you're searching through and going, I want this, I want this, and want exactly circle the things you want. And the what we had two families that had lost both parents of the children, and it very difficult but amazing. And the application process is from June 1st to the 30th, so people can go to our website. I'll provide you the link. You put in the application form. Myself and the two widows who signed NDAs are the only two people that look at that. When they finish the process, and they do have to validate that someone passed, we just look for some public
Mhm.
information, obituary, things like that. We're not looking for someone to send us death certificates or things like that. And after that's done, then the widows work with the parents or the guardians to create an anonymous Amazon wish list. The only thing that would be shown on our website is their city and state. And then it lists, and you remember seeing this list, just family one, two, three, however they're listed, and then the children and then their gifts. And people then have the opportunity to go on, select that child, purchase their gift. We're always looking for sponsors. Sometimes people are able to sponsor one gift. Sometimes business or organizations are able to sponsor an entire family or a child. The links go up on our website October 1st, and the goal is by December 31st that every child receives at least 5 gifts. And of the 29 children we had last year, I want to say about 97, 98% of them received all 5 gifts. We only had just a few that were missing gifts, but oh my gosh, the testimonials back from the parents
Mhm.
and just sharing, because it may be an economic need, but something you mentioned earlier, it may just be you want to know you're not alone.
Yeah.
You want to know that you have community, because we're on survival mode as a widow. We're trying to do all the different things, cover down on all the different places, and it's exhausting.
Mhm.
And so being able to be in a program like this, if you have children that are over the age of 18 but have some type of special need, you can still apply.
Yeah.
So we welcome the opportunity, and it allows a community of widows, different organizations like yours, and
Mhm.
we've had other widow organizations support and do that, and just be able to be a help
Yeah.
to people that need it. And we know how important it is.
It's so important. It's one of those that, again, just like widow support, children in need is endless. Like there's so many resources. And last year we, for our group, for Widows Who Whine, it was one of those things where we had done a in November at Thanksgiving, we started doing a monthly service event. And so we
Okay.
did, here we have this thing called the Sandwich Project. I don't know if it's a national thing, maybe it is. And so right before Thanksgiving break, we got together, everybody donated a bunch of money we get our orders from the people who run the project to make sandwiches. But we ended up making like 700 sandwiches for families over Thanksgiving break. So they'd have the kids were home, they're not in school, getting
Hmm.
lunches and all of that. So it went to all of that. But then we had this pot of money left over that we made all these sandwiches. Like we were maxed out on sandwiches. So that's why I saw your this whole program and I was like, that's freaking brilliant. And I just loved the way it was laid out, and just like seeing all the different wishes and doing it. And we kind of just picked from different families. So we could, this family gets this family gets this,
Oh,
and used up the money that we had. And it was just awesome. I just love it. It's such a cool program. And you're right. It's one of those things where it's just bringing a little joy to people who probably aren't feeling a lot of it, and they're feeling especially lonely at the holidays, especially missing their parent or parents. And it's just a magical, like, brilliant, joyful program. It's awesome.
thank you. And to think about having smaller children and the mental
Mhm.
fatigue of having to think about going shopping
Yeah.
without your partner,
Hmm.
to remove that from that parent and give them the gift of just seeing someone else support and not have to carry that weight.
Hmm.
That may not sound like a lot, but people that are widows or widowers or guardians, you're like, that's everything.
It is everything because I mean the best of us in the best of circumstances are like maxed out and stressed out at Christmas trying to make it as amazing and magical as can be. Then you add the whole grief load on top of that and the fact that you're probably not sleeping well, or sometimes you can't even get the energy to take a shower and you still got to go get all these Christmas presents, wrap everything, try to make everybody feel as happy as possible, especially when these children are suffering loss, that you want to make it even more magical.
Right.
It's just exhausting. I mean, I remember that John died in November. And I have four kids. They're a little older, like teens and young 20s, but it's still, just the pressure to
Yes.
maintain the magic was definitely there. And I was definitely
Exactly.
exhausted. Yeah, definitely
So,
exhausted.
so
Mhm.
yeah, I was extremely excited because I was thinking, oh, we're going to collect money, we're going to purchase gift and wrap gifts, and they was like, no, no, we're not doing any of that. I was like, we're going to do it this way. I was like, oh, I can follow the leader
Oh, yeah.
because a great idea like that to
Mhm.
just so what we've also found people like you just mentioned being able to pick the gift and knowing it's going to that child.
Yeah.
Some of these children pick something very to me like clothing,
Yeah.
shoes. And I was like, they took some people may have wanted something fun and just reading their stories. I was glad that we could support and do that. And so appreciative for all the different people that came together in community to support that.
Yeah.
And supporting it this year is our goal also.
Yeah. It's awesome. So do you have a goal for the number of families you or like what is the thought for this year?
So it's interesting you would ask that. As we were having our preparation meeting, I was asking the ladies, what would success look like for you? They didn't like my answer, but I was like, if we had 50 children this year and all 50 of those children receive 5 gifts each, that would be amazing. that not so much as families, but just 50 children. That's a lot of work. And I said that probably would put us on needing 2 more widows by next year because they would be burnt out. They would be tired.
Uh,
But to at least be able to do 29 that we did last year and more than that.
yeah,
That's what success would look like.
yeah. I'm sure you'll hit it. I'm sure. I mean,
That's the goal.
as
And
word
then it becomes,
spreads about it, yeah, it's just gonna be as word spreads and you're right, you'll end up being inundated and need like a full-time staff to go through all this, but
right.
so awesome and so magical. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. I'm
Mm.
excited about it. And that puts me on the street banging on corporation doors and doing all the things and banks and stuff like that. But for them to be able to see, and the other thing I want to mention, so I don't like shopping. And everybody may not be geeked about the idea of going on and select. We also have a website where people can donate towards that specific program. And then the widows will do the shopping for them. So you may not be interested in going through all the minutia of a
Yeah.
website and picking things. We have an option for you too.
No, that's awesome. I love shopping. So I'm all about like I read every single I remember there being like you could pick the gingerbread man or the candy cane or whatever,
Yeah,
like in behind the door was like the family. I loved it. I
exactly.
loved seeing all the things they wanted and figuring it all out. I spent way too much time on it, but it was fun. I love it. But
Thank you.
I love that there's an option for those who don't love doing that, but that's awesome. So, yay. Well, we have you also had a really exciting time in the last month or so. About a month. Hasn't been about a month since your book came out?
It was the 26th of May was the official launch.
Okay, so
Yep.
almost
So
yeah,
yeah, almost.
about that. So I got to have the honor and the privilege of being one of the ARC readers, a pre-reader, and in one of your early stages. That was probably back in when was that? Sure.
This is 26, so early 25, and I must say probably more of a pain because I didn't realize how rough that first draft was. A rough time. I got feedback from
Oh,
people.
no, it was, I mean, that's the point of it though. The point of it is to get that feedback and see where you need to go. But I was like so engaged with the story. I just loved it so much. So talk about that. How did you get the idea? Talk about the book. Obviously, we want to know the title and your whole process of there it is. Ooh, that cover turned out so well too. I love it.
This, oh my gosh. So I started out writing my memoirs.
Mhm.
Like I see a lot of people do, which I see value in, but I felt like I'd been podcasting for so long, and I was like, is there anything really new that I'm sharing? And so then this was about 2 years ago. So then I put that down. And then I started writing a book on supporting the bereaved. And it just didn't have the oomph I was looking for. But I got halfway through that. It's still on my computer. We have not deleted that because I'm like, that may come back to
It was a lot
surface.
of work too.
Exactly. It was a lot of work with the memoirs. I started pulling out all my journals. My late husband and I had these little cassettes that we would send each other back and forth when I was in Korea and he was in Honduras. And so I'm pulling out the letters. And so now I'm 2 projects in and nothing. And I was driving and the word the title Five Widows Club just dropped into my spirit. And I was like, oh, that sounds juicy.
Mhm.
That sounds like some waiting to exhale stuff for the widowhood. Like, what is this going to be? And the 5 women came to me, and the writing became very easy. Before I was pushing and just it was very arduous. But this writing this out, the profiles and the storylines, and I did some researching. A lot of books that I've seen fictional
Mhm.
about widows are super sexed up or they're super religious.
Mhm.
And that's not anybody's real story.
Right.
To me, writing a fictional novel, but on real things, I wanted widows to be able to look at that and go, oh, that that one's me, or I
Mhm.
could see myself in these 2 people. So this is real grit, real stories. These 5 women coming together and the grief support leader and their relationship building over 5 years, how they had to recreate themselves, identify things they may have found out about their spouse that they didn't or did know, and how different people witness or participate in their grief on this journey, and how they form their own group together. And I never saw myself being a writer. Not only is this is one of 3 books. The second book coming out in 2028 is about 5 widowers. And so I've already started their bios and have them sketched out and sending it to 7 men to look at and make sure a woman writing about a man that
Mhm.
I've made these men real characters. But reading this book and that has become an Amazon bestseller. Just like saying that is just like blows my mind. And having the reviews back from different people, widows and widowers, people that just wanted a good read of a story, has been very humbling.
That's so awesome. Yeah, the character development, all of it was so good. And it's so like you just really feel like you know these women. And, again, I read the very early copy, and it was just really engaging. Because there is something about every single character that somebody is going to relate to,
Yes.
like all their backstories were juicy, as you said. Definitely. I love that.
Yeah. On the first round, one of my nieces read the book. She said, "Auntie, you did that real fast." And I was like, because I just project managed it. I told the stories and went to the next thing. I didn't understand sensory development. I
Mm.
didn't understand things that are unsaid but are seen,
Uh-huh.
or things that you smell, or someone walking on a linoleum floor here. And so going back and putting those things in, working with Highlander Press, Deborah Keevan, showing me how to not make my characters just magically appear in a room. Where was the transition from one space to another space? And putting all those details in. That's where a lot of the work comes in. You may have a story, but now putting it together and just making it flow. I appreciated the process, learned a lot. And now, as people are reading the story and book clubs and different things going on like that, we put together a guide, 2 different guides for book clubs. One is a single sheet, kind of takes you through everything. And then there's another, I want to say maybe 15 pages, give you extended information about the characters, the story. So the person leading the book club feels knowledgeable, even though that they're reading the story with the
Mhm.
group, because that makes it easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I told you we're gonna do that in the fall with our widow book club that we have with the Widows Who Whine for sure. We'll be doing that. Maybe we'll like zoom you in and do a
I'm,
little.
I'm here for that. Yes, I am.
I
I
love.
want to do that because when you're, this is more than just a book.
Mhm.
This is for our community, for people to say, somebody sees me.
Mhm, that's exactly.
Someone understands this struggle. I'll give one of my favorite parts away.
Yeah.
There is a widow, Carmen. Um, and she comes home one day and her home smells really clean. And she's like, this smells odd. She opens the door, her sister's in there. Her sister decided to pack up her late husband's stuff because she needed to help her move along.
Mhm. Mhm.
Someone's had that experience. They
Yep.
may have, someone's had the experience where someone's talked to them or said you should move along and pushing you to do something you weren't ready to do. There's a lot more details in that, but those are the type of things that I wanted to share that are real in this community. And if we say it out loud, someone will think we're crazy or why are you so upset about that? But it matters in what we've
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah, because it's a big deal. That particular example, especially when like the reactions can be all over the place from like, oh, okay, thank you for helping me take this step to like, don't you freaking touch his shit. Yeah. Like, are you
So
kidding?
you'll have to read to see what Carmen said, but I'll just set you up that's what happened. We'll see what Carmen did.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, that's awesome. So exciting. So exciting. And congratulations on the bestseller. That's so fun. So fun. And it's so funny because you keep mentioning these things where it's like God is speaking to you about what to do. And I do gratitude every morning, and I we all have the same spirit, whatever we call it, different things. I say I'm talking to the angels and to spirit, and one of the things that I say in my prayers is like, help me stay open to your messages, because I feel exactly the same way. Like people ask me all the time, like, how do you come up with these ideas? How do you come up with all the things you're doing? I literally am like, I call them downloads from the universe. Like I feel like I get downloads from the universe that are just like you just said, dropped into my mind. And if I consciously just stay open to what God, spirit, universe is sending me, I can do something with it. But if you're closed off, you're never going to receive the downloads, you know? So I just think we're very lucky, you and I, in that we somehow stay open to receiving.
You
And
know, I agree, but
mhm,
I also would dare to say what you mentioned, and I don't know the answer to
mhm,
this. You have to make time for that.
mhm,
You have to make a space where you're not moving.
mhm.
You have to position yourself in a place that you can listen. That is why I get up early in the morning. I would prefer to sleep in. Sometimes I do. But I have seen the difference of the quality of my day when
Mm.
I get up early and I spend time in God's presence, make myself available with my journal, listen. Then when I just get up, check my phone first, start doing the different things, it's two totally different days.
Oh,
The level of productivity
mhm.
is different. I feel like the output of the day is different. I feel like my ability to serve, my when I connect with people, my authentic self, because I've already baselined myself before the day started, and I'm able to show up knowing that my needs are met. I'm taken care of, and I can serve people out of my overflow in doing that. So I know the difference in Tina when she doesn't do that
Yeah.
versus when she does.
That is such a, that, I mean, that's the most important point because just the idea of sitting in silence and presence and reflection versus grabbing your phone and being inundated by the outside world, that has a visceral reaction within my system just thinking about it. So yeah, of course it's going to be like two totally different ways to start your day. And every guru, scientist, anybody out there, doctor will say the worst thing you can do is pick up your phone first thing and be attacked by the world. But a lot of us do it. I'm guilty of it at times. Versus starting with my little daily J. I love Jay Shetty. I start with my little daily J, my little meditation, my little gratitude. I'm like, now I can start the day. Good.
And
Very
the second part I would add to that, taking the step to do the thing that you've been told to do.
yes.
Because a lot of times people get an idea, but they'll say, well, I can't do that. I would have never thought I could be an author. I mean, have a nonprofit that's multinational, like who's that?
Do that.
Um, Dr. Tina, like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
all of those things are not things that I just like, oh, I can do this, but I can trust God in the process to work out the details. I mean, Widows Who Whine, I mean, working on how many different states and how many different trips, and having the ability to take that idea and to bring it into manifestation and to watch all the women that have been blessed by what you've stepped out and done.
Yeah.
When we're able to take that thought and move it into action, maybe not having all the details, but trusting it as it evolves, so many other people benefit from that.
Yeah, I agree. I say that all the time too, where I feel like I say I'm fortunate in the sense that I'm an idea person and a doer person. And I think a lot of people are really good idea people and a lot of people are really good doers, but not a lot of people do both of those. And for whatever reason, I feel grateful that I am one of those that can do both. Not on everything, of course, but I get obsessed. I label myself obsessed about this. I'm like, I become like a hyper achiever because I get obsessed with an idea, and until I can like work it out and make it happen, I'm like a crazy person. But it all pans out. It doesn't all pan out, but a lot of the time it pans out. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Another thing I want to get into because I really, really, really love when we had breakfast together here in Atlanta. You had just come off of a widow retreat, and it sounded magical, and it's like it just sounded so beautiful. So, how did those get started? And just talk. to us about what that looks like for widows, and if anybody would want to be a part of it, we can put all this, of course, in the show notes too. But I loved it, like just describing, and you showed me pictures. I was like, oh, that just looks awesome. Looks awesome.
My first large experience was a widow's retreat.
Mhm.
A coworker connected me to his cousin who lived in California. My husband passed 2017. So there wasn't a lot of this video chatting. I talked on the phone 2 times. She said there was a retreat. I got on the plane from Pennsylvania. My sister picked me up because she lived close, and then we met like at some gas station in the middle of both our places. I got in the car and said, "Bye, I gotta go." And my sister's like, her husband died, and I'm not sure if she's thinking straight. She's taking pictures of the license plate, hoping I come back alive.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
And best decision ever. Best decision ever to be. That was my first time being in a space with other widows and widowers, not having to second guess if I should say this out loud, if they're going to think this is strange. Everyone in this room had a spouse that transitioned, and the things that I was going to say made sense to them, and it validated me. That was year one of my husband dying.
Wow.
I had no idea, fast forward years later, I would be able to hold that same space for people. Now, that was a large venue. We limit, and I say we because this year I am collaborating with Widows Do Bounce Back, Maya Dion, and we're doing this retreat together in Virginia Beach. We're intentionally limited to 10 women because over, and you know this, over 10 people, you start losing track of all the different people. You're not able to see who's the quiet person,
Yeah.
who's the person, all the different personalities. And there's something about being intimate and being in a space that you feel comfortable. And let me tell you, you thought those pictures were great last year. This year, we have a 3-story house in Virginia Beach, walking to the beach, indoor swimming pool, hot tub, chef preparing every meal, massages on deck,
Wow.
people that fly in, someone is picking them up from the airport and bringing them. We have our own personal bartender, a really good friend of mine making mocktails or cocktails.
Mhm.
Yes, there will be work done, but
Mhm.
there will be karaoke too.
Uh-huh.
There will be the proper mix of time to be by yourself, 4 days and 3 nights. I remember one of the things I remember most from the retreat last year. We were eating dinner, and one of the widows, I think she may have been just in her first year, just over it. And she's like, I'm gonna go to bed. And I saw some people kind of wanting to go to her. I was like, no, no, let her go.
Mhm.
And she went upstairs the next day for breakfast. She came down. She said, I was listening to you guys laugh. I was listening, and she was like, she had her, the way she did, like she was showing, she had her blanket up there. She said, I was listening to you guys laugh. And I was like, when am I going to be able to laugh like that? When? And she said, she was crying and she was thinking about her spouse. She's like, I know all of them lost their spouse, but they're laughing.
Mhm.
That was breakfast.
Wow.
By dinner, she was dancing. She had saw a pattern
Mhm.
of giving herself permission
Permission. Mhm.
to enjoy the life that she has.
Yep.
Those are the moments that
Mhm.
will last with you past that retreat.
Yep.
This year's theme is the next you experience
Mhm.
because none of us are the same after our spouses pass. And so many of us are on survival mode. So many of us are having to take care of everybody else. We want to get away, but who's taking care of us? And if I went away, where would I go? Because
Mhm.
I don't want to go to any of the places we went before, and I want something different. And to be able to be pampered, for someone to say it's okay to still want a different version of your life. Maybe you said, I'm going to hit all of the amusement parks in the United States, and that was something I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And then you say, I can make a list and do that. Maybe I want to go to the boardwalk of every beach on the West Coast. To have those desires
Mhm.
and to give yourself permission to seek them out, to do them and enjoy them, sometimes we need a bit of a nudge.
Mhm.
And good gosh, after Halloween and Thanksgiving, that sweet spot, that first weekend in December sets you up for Christmas and New Year's
Mhm.
because the holidays are coming. You're about to step into another year without this person you love. And I want to say this, you may have been in a same sex marriage, you may have been a fiance, it may have been a longtime partner.
Mhm.
It's not limited to people that were married under the conventional way. It is limited to women, let me say that. But if you've had a partner that passed and you're wanting to know that you're not alone and connect with other women, and being Maya was a young wood, I want to remember she was in her 20s or 30s with two young boys. I am 60. I was widowed at an older age, but there's also another woman, Dr. White, that is helping us do this. So there's a lot of people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, for people to feel comfortable. And I want to circle back to something like me getting in the car in California and driving away. We have set this up that your family will know who you're with. We have a couple of Zoom meetings where we connect. Everyone shares their official name, phone number, so your loved ones will know, like, this is the address where you're at. These are the other 9 women that are at the retreat. And the connection meetings in advance make it like, I can't wait to get there because these
Yeah.
relationships have been built, and I can't wait to be with these other women and wait for this to start.
Yeah.
So we make sure we do all those things too, because it's like, I met you on the internet and I'm going on a retreat. I
Mhm.
got it.
I
We
got
got those things in place.
That's awesome. That is such a valid point too, because um, there's so many complicated, as you know, complicated emotions involved. Like, when is it okay to laugh again? When is it okay to feel happy? And when is it okay to start planning that next you, that next chapter? And moving forward, you're not getting over it. You're not doing all of those things. That you're moving forward, and that it is okay to go find joy again and be happy again, and give yourself permission to feel that, because there's a lot of guilt that's wrapped up in finding joy and being happy again. There's so much guilt. And then, there's all the judgment from the outside people looking in as to if you're doing it fast enough or not, or not fast enough, or, well, I guess she's over him because she's laughing, like all the things. So it's so complicated. But if you
Yeah.
can be in that space where people are walking that same path. I remember that the second Widows Who Whine social that I planned. The first one was at my house, and the second one we went to one of those paint and sip kind of places. And I was at the end of the table, and it was the same. It reminded me so much of that because I was sitting at the end, sort of watching it all happen. And all these women who were strangers to one another, even though we lived in the same town, but they're all painting and sipping and laughing and telling stories and just really getting to know each other. In that, I have such strong memories of that moment, going, oh wow, this is really good. This is really good. And just seeing all of those women being happy, that I was like, oh, this is something. This is going to be something. Yeah, just so good. It's so good.
And that is the magic.
Mm-hmm.
That is the magic. Not that your grief is resolved or my grief is resolved, but we've been able to take a journey we're on
Mm-hmm.
and connect with other people and go, it it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult, but it doesn't always have to be sad.
Yeah.
I think society has put this thing on women that we're supposed to be cloak and dagger and forever dismayed. I miss Mark today.
Mm-hmm.
I have remarried and I carry his last name with zero guilt.
Mm-hmm.
My current husband's like, well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so two things can be true.
Yeah.
I can love my husband that transitioned from this world, and I can still choose to love the life that I have remaining. As I see you in the bright colors over there in the background in the flowers, you may have done it through crying. You
Mm-hmm.
may have done it through tears, but every day you choose to continue living,
Yeah.
that is important.
Hmm.
And I don't want to say for your children, for the community, for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
It
you.
can't be just for you, for me, because
Yes,
we matter. We
yes,
deserve to be happy. Yeah. And it's not, it's like the another typical standard for women is to be the martyr, to be the one that's sacrificing everything to make sure everybody's good. You know, what about us being good? What about our happiness? What about our right to live a happy, fulfilling life?
yes,
You know? Doesn't matter when you become a widow, in your 20s, in your 50s, in your 80s, it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
there's still life to live, and we're lucky for that. So
Mm.
embrace it and be happy and find joy, for sure. Yeah.
And that's what this retreat is, that sometimes we need someone to help jumpstart, do a
Mhm.
little, resuscitation
Yeah.
on who we are, because we're burnt out on caring and doing for everything. And how many times are widows carrying a mask of never really being able to say how they feel, because being concerned about what this person is going to say, that person, and never being in space, you're holding all of this in, and finally having a space to go, I can be honest with me and the people around me, and then take that permission and carry that forward in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. I was talking about this on the podcast the other day too. We were talking about it. It's such a good point, because what you're doing, what all these other women who are widows who are doing really amazing things, it's the ripple effect of planting a seed of joy within a widow, someone who's suffered great loss and has a broken heart and has permission to then be happy again, be a productive member of society, because you can leave your house and go live a life. And then the ripple effect within that family, within that community, within
Mm,
all the people, her friends and people around her. You can't even calculate the positive impact on that ripple effect. And that's what I was said when I was talking to this woman the other day, is like, you think about that. You think about 12 million widows in our country. If all 12 million of those had permission to be happy and joyful again, think about
wow.
that ripple effect.
Mm. And
That's
that
what.
is why my nonprofit is Widowhood, Real Talk with Tina.
Mhm.
Widow is the person that lost their loved one. The hood, I'm from Chicago, that's the family, that's the tribe,
Mhm.
because there's so many other people impacted. My
Yes.
husband, Mark, died, but that impacted his children, his
Hmm.
friends, his brothers. It's not a singular event. That profound loss, yes, it is. It's that butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Who else is impacted, and how does that work? Yes,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So there can't be too many resources for
at
all of
all.
all of us out there.
Exactly.
All of us out there. Well, okay. Anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to cover?
No, I think you did a good job. I think I relinquished everything and the right questions. I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm looking forward to my next trip to Atlanta to see you again.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I do want to just ask one final question, because you've done so many things. Do you have a favorite, that one of these aspects that maybe you're the most proud of, or that's brought you the most fulfillment and joy?
Wow. I'm gonna say Children of Widowhood Secret Santa.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that because it's a combination of so many things I believe in. One, having two other widows champion that
Mhm.
project and me just watch them shine.
Yeah.
Watching the different people and communities come together to support someone they've never met, but to know that there is a need. That is amazing. Well, I will mention this. We do have a new program that's going with the retreat. We have, going back to the idea of financial support, we have two widows that just don't have the economic means, but they would want to attend the retreat. So we created a sponsorship program,
That's
and
awesome.
we're going to be putting that out. I want to say like the first week of July, that people can donate to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. But it is either going to go to widow A and B, or you may have $10, five to each,
Mhm.
and that's our way of trying to get those two women to be sponsored. And a widow may go, I can't go, but I really would want someone else to have that opportunity. And to be able to do that, it goes in line with the Children Widowhood Secret Santa, to give people the ability to do something they desire, but may have not been able to do on their own, to be a part of that, to help somebody else. Because going back to statistics, losing your life partner, the parent of your child, some people never recover from this. Some people stay in a very um, dismal space and never see that life is worth living again. And
Mhm.
to be part of that, to give someone else joy, that excites me, and that is what I would say.
I love that, and it reminds me of like one of the my taglines for Widows Who Whine is in one of the reasons why that came to be, and it's so in line with what you're doing, is there are resources out there, the grief support groups or whatever, that help widows survive, but there are so few that help them thrive. And that is something like your retreats, like your exact example of the woman who finally had permission to feel happiness and laugh. That's taking her from survival mode to really thriving. She might
Yeah.
not be thriving yet, but it's cracked open the door to realize that it's okay to walk through that door, find the joy, and find a life that's fulfilling, and you're thriving, like living your next best chapter. And that's
Yes.
magical. It's magical. And you're sprinkling magic all over the place. And I'm grateful to know you. I'm so grateful to have you on today and share all the things you're doing. And of course, I'll put everything, like I said, in the show notes for anybody who wants to apply for your programs, future retreats, just listen to your podcast, read your book, all the things, all the things you're doing. And thank you so much for taking time with me today and just sharing your thriving, joyful, fulfilling life with us. I really appreciate it.
Pam, thank you so much for allowing me to connect with your community. Thank you for this conversation. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your friendship more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah. One of the silver linings, we would not have known each other without
That's
our men transitioning. So, great. I'll look for all the silver linings. There's got to be purpose in the pain for sure. But
exactly.
thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. And good luck with everything. It was such
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
All right. Talk to you later.